Shalom from Israel to all of the Daystar viewers around the world. I'm Moshe Bar Tzvi, the producer and founder of Israel Now News. We at Israel Now News are dedicated to bringing you the full story and the truth about Israel from Israel. It's written in the Holy Bible when David said in Psalm 25:5, "Lead me in your truth and teach me, for you are the God of my salvation. For you I wait all the day long." And God says in Zechariah 8:16, "These are the things that you shall do. Speak out the truth to one another. Judge with truth and judgment to peace in your gates. And always search for the truth, and the truth shall set you free." John 8:31. I hope you enjoyed the program. God bless you from Jerusalem. Shalom, shalom.
Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El-Rom.
And I'm Erin Viner.
In our top story, Russia has offered Assad an alternative to military action. In a move to avoid foreign military intervention in Syria, Russian President Vladimir Putin has proposed that his ally, Bashar al-Assad, surrender his chemical weapons. Syria, which has a massive stockpile of sarin, mustard gas, and VX nerve agents, reportedly welcomed the offer. Despite positive responses from the United Nations and U.S. President Barack Obama, U.S. experts believe that the actual process of disarming Syria would take up to a decade and would most likely be ineffective. An expert on chemical and nuclear weapons said the lack of hard data and the Assad government's intentional concealment and movement of the weapons inventory would complicate the disarmament.
The reportedly destitute Palestinian Authority has announced that it will give $15 million in grants to Palestinians convicted of terrorism against Israel. The announcement came the same day that the U.S. Consulate General in Jerusalem approved the release of $148 million in financial assistance to the PA. The so-called dignified life grants are to be dispersed among some 5,000 Palestinians who served more than 5 years in Israeli jails. U.S. law clearly states that American aid money cannot be passed to terrorists or former terrorists. The president of the Traditional Values Coalition told Fox News that U.S. President Obama is wrong to pay the terrorists a bonus for their evil actions. According to Andrea Lafferty, U.S. aid is being used by the PA to fund serial terrorists and murderers.
The Russian defense minister reportedly summoned the Israeli and American ambassadors in Moscow to express his discontent with Israel's recent missile test. Last week, Israel successfully test-fired an Anchor missile over the Mediterranean Sea. Russia's RIA Novosti news agency reported that Anatoly Antonov harshly reprimanded the U.S. and Israeli attachés and used the opportunity to warn the United States against military intervention in Syria.
The International Atomic Energy Agency has announced that Iran has completed the installation of 1,000 uranium enrichment centrifuges. U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Samantha Power said that rather than take the steps to meet the obligations imposed by the UN Security Council, Iran is installing advanced centrifuges, which may be 2 to 3 times more efficient at enriching uranium than the current hardware being used.
Iran is activating its militia groups throughout the Middle East. U.S. intelligence officials have intercepted a message from the head of Iran's Revolutionary Guard's Al-Quds Force to militia groups in Iraq and Lebanon. The communique directs militants to be prepared to strike U.S. interest in those two countries. According to a report in the Wall Street Journal, a U.S. intelligence official confirmed the threat on the U.S. Embassy in Beirut, as well as on American troops in Iraq. The U.S. Navy is reportedly on high alert in the Mediterranean Sea, where they are in range of Iran's high-speed boat fleet. The article said the United States has prepared U.S. Marines and diplomatic missions in the Middle East and North Africa for evacuation. The State Department issued a travel advisory to Iraq, stating that the terrorist activity in the country was at levels unseen since 2008.
New evidence has emerged on the alleged massacre of Christians by Islamic militants in Syria. Little news is circulated about the Christian population in the Arab Republic amidst the bloody civil war being waged over the past 3 years. But a recent report in the German Focus magazine has detailed the systematic murder of Christians during the fighting, citing a video depicting Salafi jihadists praising the murders of Syrian Christians.
In the aftermath of a suicide bombing meant to assassinate Egypt's interior minister, the Egyptian army launched a massive military campaign against terrorists in the northern Sinai last week. Egypt's Ma'an news agency quoted an Egyptian military official as saying this could be the biggest domestic operation in Egypt's history. 7 helicopters supported dozens of armored vehicles in an attempt to level terrorist strongholds in the Sinai Peninsula. The helicopters destroyed 12 targets, killing dozens of suspected insurgents. Sheikh Hassan Halaf said this is by far the largest operation and the one we have been waiting for. Starting today, you will not hear of attacks on army or police checkpoints as before.
A group of Islamic computer hackers have posted an English-language video on YouTube calling on all Muslims to simultaneously hack into Israel's computer infrastructure. The video repeatedly makes calls to erase Israel from the map and warns America that followers will show you. The narrator, a joker in a keffiyeh, repeats that all of Israel is Palestine. The Eerie video ends with a prayer for Allah to help the hackers and the mujahideen.
The Israeli Air Force has installed an Iron Dome missile defense battery in Jerusalem. A spokesperson for the military said that Iron Dome defense systems are deployed in accordance with situation assessments. Just before Rosh Hashanah, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu issued a grave warning to the countries threatening Israel. He said if anyone thinks they are going to ruin the peace and quiet of Rosh Hashanah in Israel, they had better realize what response awaits them. He went on to say that Israel is an island of calmness. We trust the IDF and our own ability to defend ourselves. I will not allow anyone to hurt our country and violate that calmness.
King Abdullah of Saudi Arabia has reportedly granted $200 million to the Palestinian Authority. The money has been earmarked to prevent the Judaization of the Palestinian-controlled cities in Judea and Samaria.
Australia has elected a new prime minister. Liberal leader Tony Abbott told the country that from today, I declare that Australia is under new management and Australia is once more open for business. Abbott recently made headlines in Israel when he warmly greeted visiting members of the Knesset Christian Allies Caucus, which were there to establish an Australian Parliamentary Israel Allies Caucus. Shortly after their visit, Abbott made a public statement that he desires to rebuild Australia's ties with Israel. He said there's been a bit of wobbling under the Labor government, but I would expect our rock-solid friendship with Israel to resume should the Conservative coalition win the election.
An Israeli humanitarian organization has been recognized for its heroic assistance to the Syrian people since the start of the civil war in 2011. Relief workers from the aid group have been on the ground in Syria since just 1 month after the outbreak of the war, and they have delivered 670 tons of food, 70 tons of sanitation items, 120 tons of basic home items, and over 20 tons of medication. They've also organized medevac flights to Israel and built surgical tents on the ground in Syria. A spokesperson for the group says that they are there to be a voice for the voiceless and to provide some perspective to the world. And that because Israel is a country that was founded by a people who were almost exterminated during the Holocaust. This aid is their way of saying never again, and that they cannot remain silent.
Israeli Tourism Minister Uzi Landau has announced a plan to bring Christian youth to Israel. The proposal, based on the Jewish Birthright program, would offer Christian young people an opportunity to tour the Holy Land. Landau said that by giving them a meaningful experience and education in Israel, the state would ultimately be creating ambassadors for Israel around the world.
Jews from around the world rush to build outdoor structures in preparation for the festival of Sukkot, also known as the Feast of Tabernacles. The book of Leviticus details the commandment to build and dwell in a sukkah for 8 days. This is reminiscent of the tabernacles that Jews lived in while they wandered the desert waiting to enter the Holy Land. The Feast of Tabernacles is also one of the largest and most popular Christian holidays celebrated in Israel. Thousands of Christians from all over the world came to the holy city of Jerusalem this week to participate in the event sponsored by the International Christian Embassy. We at Israel Now News wish our viewers a happy holiday and Chag Sukkot Sameach.
This is Jerusalem, Israel's capital city. It's an ancient and modern treasure that is beyond belief. There's a little bit of Israel in all of us. Come find the Israel in you.
That concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host Josh Reinstein, and we're here in the Israel Now News Sukkot on our rooftop studio. My guest today is Israeli basketball sensation Lazy Gordon. Lazy, thank you for being on the show.
Mr. Reinstein, thank you very much for having me. Chag Sameach for everybody. Sukkah is like in Hebrew, Sukkah, so that's where we're at. It's a pleasure to be here in Jerusalem.
Lazy Gordon is a legend in Israel in basketball, but he's originally from America. Tell us a little bit about your background. How did you come to Israel?
Well, I was born in New York City, and then I moved, not on my fault. It was my parents actually moved me at the age of 4.5 to Tel Aviv, Israel. And I stayed here till the age of 16. And then my parents decided to move to the States. Again, not my fault, but we decided to pursue a basketball career in America, and we moved to Houston, Texas.
And so how long have you been involved in basketball? How long was your career? Where were you playing?
Well, I played basketball in high school in America, and then I got a scholarship at Towson State University, which today is Towson University, and then I transferred to Southwest Texas State when my father was ill from cancer. And then I moved to, I got my opportunity to play for Maccabi Tel Aviv in 1988, and that's, I've been here ever since.
And now you're doing something completely different. You've left basketball and now you're focusing on music. And not just music, but music that brings people to Israel. Tell us about that a little bit.
Well, it's a long process, Josh. You don't pick up music all of a sudden. I played basketball and did music all my life. The thing with the luring Christian tourism to Israel, it came about 1.5 years ago when I wrote Oh My Holy Land, and it just opened a new way of living. Actually, shlichut it's called in Israel, to bring people to Israel.
You know, that's interesting that you say bringing Christian tourists to Israel. Why specifically Christians? Why is your music focused on Christians and not, bringing more Jews to Israel or secular people?
Well, Josh, I really did what you said, but the Office of Tourism thought that the evangelical Christians, 600 million of them, would actually feel the song a lot more, and it just happened naturally.
It's interesting to see that the song has become quite a hit. There's been articles written about it, and it's a different style of music. Tell us a little bit about what kind of music is that?
Well, Josh, it's not really my fault that it's a hit, because there are a lot of people loving the Holy Land, and I just naturally picked upon it, and the style is kind of evolving a few styles together. That's not really what the Middle East is about. We have like reggae subliminally hidden into the soul, touching upon jazz, have a lot of gospel in it, and if you really listen to the song, it's got a Hasidic movement also, so it's really mixed. And the song says for all mankind. That's really what it means.
One of the messages of the song is that Israel is for everyone. Why is Israel such an open place? Why are all religions converging on Israel?
Well, we didn't invent that, Josh. I just think that it's something that came upon us in Jerusalem and the Dead Sea and all the beautiful places that the Christian tourism and all the world are aware of. All our job is just to bring them here, just to make them feel comfortable and take the fear away of coming here. I mean, we're hanging out here, right?
Well, it's interesting because your background in basketball really prepared you to be an ambassador to Christian tourism. You have the Jewish background, we're in Texas with lots of players from around the world. Is that why you think the Ministry of Tourism asked you to be an ambassador to the Christian world in this respect?
Well, Josh, I wish I knew, but I have no answer for that. I'm just very appreciative and very thankful to the one above that it kind of evolved like this. It took a lot of time, a lot of thought into the song, but sometimes a simple song like this could reach a lot of people and send a message to everyone.
Lazy, there are literally millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
Well, I love you guys, and that's all I want to do is I want to express some love and some unity, some cohesiveness, some synergy. That's basically it. You know, I'm just a small little leaf, and I just wrote "Oh My Holy Land," and then it kind of evolved by itself. A lot of people put their sweat into it and helped us out on this, and became a big team, and I hope to see you here. So, peace.
Thank you, Lazy, for being on the show. And thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein, wishing you a great Feast of Tabernacles this week. Now back to the studio.
More than 1 million Jewish children have been killed by abortion in Israel since 1948. Israel is currently engaged in a demographic war for its very survival as a Jewish state. Imagine what a difference 1 million more Jews would have made for Israel. Friends of Efrat saves the lives of thousands of children every year by providing support to pregnant women in distress. Since 1977, Efrat has saved over 30,000 lives and is recognized as a world leader in preventing abortions. You can play a major role in Israel's survival now by helping us save Israel's unborn children.
Up next, Shining Light from Israel.
It's called the long goodbye, an illness whose victims slowly waste away, a process often harder on the family than it is on the patients themselves. It's Alzheimer's disease, and as life expectancy in Western nations grows longer, more and more people throughout the world will be affected. These patients at an Alzheimer daycare clinic in Jerusalem appear to be normal and happy, but they are acutely affected by the disease. Their symptoms include confusion, irritability, trouble with language, and memory loss. As the disorder progresses, victims often withdraw from family and society, losing the ability to identify even their loved ones. Gradually, bodily functions are lost, ultimately leading to death. But now, an Israeli innovation is offering new possibilities for Alzheimer's victims and their families. It works by magnetically stimulating areas of the brain most affected by Alzheimer's, reconnecting disconnected brain cells, and improving blood flow. But the key is combining the magnetic stimulation with cognitive exercises.
Combining these two together creates a long-lasting change in the brain connectivity and the brain plasticity. This is very significant from the clinical point of view, and it far exceeds what's currently available with the medications they have today.
Professor Jose Rabeh, Chief of Neurology at Asaf Harofeh Medical Center outside of Tel Aviv, has been supervising clinical tests on the device.
It's a completely new and different approach, non-invasive and painless, for the improvement of the cognitive functions and, as a consequence, the activities of daily living of Alzheimer's patients.
Trial participants undergo an MRI scan of the brain to pinpoint affected regions and then undergo treatment for 6 weeks. The system has already undergone 3 successful clinical trials, 2 at Asaf Harofeh and 1 at Harvard Medical School. Participants will return to a cognitive state comparable to up to 2 years before treatment.
How did it change my life? Oh, I feel better than before. I can talk with everybody without losing my mind, and I don't know who is or what happened.
Suddenly she improve, and it was like before the disease started. And concerning the names of the family, she used to change sometimes the children, etc. Now she recognized them back, and this is very important for them.
Alzheimer's is a rapidly deteriorating disease, and if you can preserve the status of the patients for several years forward, then it means a lot to them and to the families.
The company hopes to expand its clinics by the end of the year to Europe and Asia, and to get FDA approval by 2014 in order to establish U.S. clinics as well. New hope for patients and their families who had all but given up hope for treating this devastating disease.
טוב, אני מקווה שאת מחלימה עכשיו, לאט לאט. או איזה חיוך יפה יש.
אני קודם הצחקתי.
Anywhere else, this would be a vacation by a lake. But this is the Sea of Galilee. The wonders of Israel are beyond belief. There's a little bit of Israel in all of us. Come find the Israel in you.
Please stay tuned for the ICJ report from the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem.
We are here at the International Convention Center in Jerusalem, and in just a few months from now, those seats which you see here in the back, they will be packed with thousands of pilgrims which are coming from all over the world to celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles here in Jerusalem.
I don't think I have experienced worship like this for a very long time in my life, although I have the privilege to go from nation to nation. There was just something at this feast, a reality, an honesty, an integrity, a depth of the worshippers who worship themselves and led people into worship. That, I must say, impacted me personally very greatly.
This year's Feast of Tabernacles theme, the Spirit of Grace and Supplication, is one of the most exciting themes for the nation of Israel. Because all the prophets of the Bible, they speak about a day when God would pour out His Spirit upon the nation of Israel. There's hardly any book in the Bible which does not speak and prophesy about a day where God would pour out His presence on this very nation in which we are standing right now, in which we are sitting right now, the nation of Israel. If there is any nation today on the planet Earth which has a biblical right to expect the outpouring of the Holy Spirit, it is the nation of Israel. The Hebrew words for grace and supplication are very similar. They are even related to each other. The Bible calls the word grace, or uses for the word grace, the word chen. And the word for supplication is the Hebrew word tachanun. And it's quite interesting to see that this word tachanun includes in its word the word chen. You could also translate it, instead of supplication, as the pleading for God's grace, the requesting of God's grace. The requesting from God to pour out His grace on His nation. If you feel the Spirit of God is pouring out a spirit of supplication upon your life, If you feel in your heart the Lord is leading you on your knees to supplicate and to intercede and to pray for a particular thing in your family, in your church, in your community, you can be sure that this spirit of supplication, this spirit of requesting the grace of God is already the answer of your prayer. You can be sure that He will pour out also His grace upon your life.
Jerusalem? You can still join us in spirit by watching the Feast of Tabernacles live via our website from September 20th to 24th. Visit feast.icej.org/live to sign up. You can also visit our web store at int.icej.org/store to purchase CDs and DVDs of the many dynamic messages delivered during the Feast of Tabernacles.
Those who dreamed about the Jewish state, those who wrought the historical miracle and against all odds established a state, those who arrived in the homeland to their new home, those who propelled Israel forward step after step.
I have no doubt that this expanded partnership with our many Christian supporters will greatly strengthen Israel in the years ahead. And I want to thank you all for being part of that historic effort and that historic partnership. May God bless all of Israel's friends throughout the world. May God bless you.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan Elrom.
And I'm Erin Viner reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Please join us again next week for all your Israel updates.